Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome to Effects Maniac. Again, this is Syed Mahmoud Amiri, and it's been a long time since my last tutorial. It was actually last year, so Happy New Year to all of you who is watching this. Alright, so in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to do something really cool, which is this one. So we've done this using Tyflow. It's a very simple setup. I've got another render here, here, so like a top view. So this effect has gotten, like, I've seen it a few places and I just wanted to do it. So this is actually inspired by a Blender tutorial, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it using 3D Studio Max. So it's a very simple setup, and I'll show you guys how to get all of these nice details that you wouldn't normally get. So and before getting into today's video, I do want to thank everyone who has been there with me, subscribed to my channel, and especially thanks to people who have joined my Patreon page to support me and get some awesome project files as well. So make sure to do so if you want. And so we're to get started with today's video, we're going to be using Mixamo. So it's actually a character animation and characters sort of website that you can get and download it for free. So if you search for laying moaning, there is this animation, and you can apply this to this character and you'll get this effect. So you can decrease the overdrive or increase it, and just once you're okay with it, you can just go ahead and download the FBX and bring it inside 3D Studio Max, as I have here. So what I'm going to do is I'll start off with a fresh scene here. So I'm just going to go reset, don't save, yes. And I'm going to bring the file here. Alright, so I've imported this model here. I'm just going to click here. And what I'm going to do to sort of move it is I'm actually going to select this and right click, hide unselected. And I'll go into my selection here, and I'll select the hips and not the model, and we'll just move it like somewhere in the center, just like that. Alright, so now we have our animation here, and what I'm going to do is create my Tyflow setup, which is going to be very, very simple. So this character is here. So I'm actually going to create a plane, just like that. Make sure it is big enough so that it encompasses the whole character and we get all these nice details. So in order to get these nice details, of course, you need a lot of segments. So what I'm going to do is go back into 3D Studio Max and hit F4, and we're just going to give it like at least like 50 by 50 for now. We will increase that later, and I'm just going to right click and clone this because we also need it as the ground, and we may not need that much detail. Just scale it up so that we don't see any of that. And I'm going to select this plane and we'll move it up here. I'm actually going to scale it up a little bit. So I'm going to create my Tyflow setup. So I'll go to Tyflow and we'll play this here. And open editor, just scale this down here. It's very simple. We just need to convert this to cloth. So I'm going to birth objects, pick this, and hide, right click, hide the original model, and we'll add the cloth bind operator, and we go to display and turn off mark particles no geo. And right now we don't have like anything. We do want to decrease the stiffness for stretch, shear, and bend in order to get some nice details. And there's one more thing we're going to change later. So now I'm going to add a force, so for it to have gravity, and we'll set this to like -0.4, and now the cloth will be falling down, but it won't collide with the ground or with the character. So I'm actually going to add a collision operator and put it after the force, pick the character and the floor. So now you will see that it will sort of collide, but you see we have a lot of problems here. So in order to fix this, we can do a couple of things, and we should do a couple of things. First, we should increase the detail of the plane. So we'll set it to like 60 by 60, so that it'll just improve the detail a little bit, and it'll help to sort of blend with the character. And the next very important thing is we need to go to the Tyflow's main settings, and we'll set the time step to at least half a frame. So now you'll see we have a lot more detail. If you increase this to 1/4, we'll have a lot more detail, but then, you know, it'll take a lot more time. And the other thing is, you see that we don't have a lot of detail here. So we can move forward, and we get all the interactions and stuff, but there's not a lot of detail. We definitely need to increase the detail. And the other thing is, we don't need the character, so just right click and hide the selection. We just need it as a collision object. But you see, the detail that we have here, we don't have it here. So in order to do that, we need to shrink the cloth. So there's an option which I've actually discussed in a previous tutorial, in this Tyflow inflation tutorial. In order to grow or shrink the cloth, you need this. If you increase this, it'll actually grow the cloth, but if you decrease this, it'll actually shrink the cloth. So 0.7, I'm going to set it to 0.7 and see what kind of a change it'll bring to the cloth. So you'll see that we have much more detail, and the cloth is now like shrinking onto the character, but we have very little detail. So I'm actually going to go to the plane 1. I'm going to set it to probably 120 by 120. I believe in the original example I actually did a lot more, but in this case, just for the tutorial purposes, already you can see that we're getting a lot of detail. Yeah, so now you see that we have a lot of detail here. So just like that. I think it's shrinking a little too much. And by the way, the one thing you don't want to forget that I completely forgot to do is you need to go into the cloth and turn on CUDA collision solvers, and we need to turn on self collisions, because the cloth needs to collide with itself. So I'm actually going to move a few frames forward and I'll show you guys how it looks. Alright, so I did get this effect, and I've actually changed a couple of things that I didn't, mention before. So the first thing is I actually gave it like a very subtle sort of noise strength for the force in order to give it like more detail and stuff. And also in the cloth bind, I decreased the length bias previously to 0.7, which was a little too low, so I increased it to 0.93, which is still giving us a lot more detail, but still we don't have a lot of detail in the cloth plane itself. So if you want to increase the detail, we can do that. Or if I bring you here, we do have a lot of detail, because I actually have like, how much? I don't know, plane 2, 300 segments, which is a lot of segments. So I do want to say that it is going to get a bit, heavy on your system. So make sure to do it at last before you render. And to not see these very rough edges, what I'm going to do is add a turbo smooth modifier, so turbo smooth, and you can increase a bit of detail, but still, you do want to sort of increase the plane segments itself, and you'll get all of these nice wrinkly details that you have right here. Alright, so what else? The rendering is actually very simple for the lighting. So I actually added like a Vray dome light 0.3 for the general sort of grayish lighting, and I gave everything sort of a gray Vray material, and I have 3 lights. I have one that is sort of yellow, one that is blue, and one that is sort of red, a very mild one. And this is basically our scene. We have 2 cameras, we have this camera and we have this camera. And for the render settings, I'm actually using the one thing that I did turn on is ambient occlusion, because I do want to get all these shadowy details. So I'm using irritance map and ambient occlusion, and one for the value, and that's basically it, I think. So you just go ahead and render it out and bring it inside of After Effects and do everything that you want with it. So you can try different characters and enjoy the results. But in a nutshell, this was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you want to get the project file for this and all of these amazing tutorials, you can go ahead and join my Patreon page and support me as well. And, you know, ask me any questions or suggest any tutorials that you want to. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Till the next one, enjoy working.